What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, I have, oh my God, my near and dear friend, Professor, Speech and Language Therapist, Miss Danielle Scott. How you doing today, Miss Scott?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
Look, I'm excited. You know, it's been real in these streets with this vid. And so this is my getaway. So anytime I can get with a familiar face and we can talk about some things, I'm excited.
Hey, I understand that. Thank you for having me.
Look, now I want to say before we jump into anything, we talking episode number 3. I think number 3.
I think so.
Come on, man. We talking about
so much has changed since then.
Hey, look, that was. Man, what that was 2019?
2019. Wow. In the summer, actually.
Yeah, get ready. Man, look, when I tell you what we've been through since then,
I know.
But you know, if I was still the same, then it'll be a problem. What I'm doing this for, right?
I love to see it. I love to see the growth. And so quickly. You put out so much information. So
we talking about like 100 some, but once again, that doesn't take nothing from you being in that first 5.
Yes, this is so full circle.
So before we get into the background of just you as an awesome person, I want to do a wellness check. How have you been doing during this pandemic and staying safe out here?
I think overall I've been doing well. I'm vaccinated. I wear a mask. Mm-hmm. I think this is just a time that reminds us to cherish our loved ones, to just take opportunities, and also just to really take care of ourselves more than, and if you never did take care of yourself, really making that a priority, because mental health is just really important. For me, being a single person, I live by myself. The pandemic has been hard. I think just like experiencing physical isolation and not feeling that I'm mentally or spiritually isolated. So always just really keeping up with my affirmations and my journals, and always like checking in with myself.
Look, when you say thinking about staying alone and then going through that, man, I'm telling you, I was over here going stir crazy.
Yeah.
My life. I'll say, but you know, we pulled it out, and
we did.
And then we came out of it so much better for that time alone. We may be going back in, but I think about all the growth
we might, yes, so much progress in that time. So honestly, I'm just grateful that I was able to push through some hard mental times just to like focus on things I had to do.
Yeah.
So
now, in thinking of things that you had to do, give us a little bit of background on you, what you were doing, and how you even got into the game of speech and language.
Yeah, I mean, what I was doing during the pandemic, it was like as soon as it happened, you know, we switched working in the schools as a SOP, we switched to teletherapy. And although I'm still working on my PhD online. So I just spent so much time on the computer doing teletherapy during the day, take like an hour nap, and then hop back on the computer. And I was writing I actually started my dissertation, writing it as the pandemic started, like the same month.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, you're either going to make the best of this or not. And I decided, I mean, you know, if you can make the best of it. But I really just wanted to use all that time to myself to really focus on what I've been working hard for. So that was pretty much the start of the pandemic. And then last year, still working in the schools, which I have always enjoyed, but I wanted to start getting experience at the university level. So I just talked to my mentor, and she was like, man, I need some support with teletherapy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know how to do teletherapy now, thanks to the pandemic. And I started supervising graduate students at Minnesota State University, Mankato. My mentor, she's absolutely amazing, incredibly supportive, and she's the chair of the department. Her name is Dr. Megan Mahold, and she's just provided me so many opportunities for professional growth. So working in the schools during the day, coming home and putting on a professor hat for a couple hours in the afternoon, and then taking that hat off and putting on a PhD student hat was a lot, but it was amazing. I think it grounded me because I was like, this is why I'm doing all this. This is that has always been the end goal for me. So yeah, a lot went on last year.
Yeah, I think about that. I think you got some echo. You might have to turn it down just a little bit and see if it'll stop it. But I think about man, like you said, one guy told me in 1999, he said, man, people with a lot on their plate get things done. And so I think you was just inside of the circle, inside of the hustle, and you just strong, so you finish.
I mean, maybe. I also think, yes, I'm strong, but I have to like acknowledge my weakness and really work at resting as much as I work at working. Because that is hard for me. Like if you don't replenish, your work suffers. So I think people that are productive are actually skilled at listening to their bodies, listening to their minds, and being able to rest.
Man, okay, I can dig it. I needed to hear that. I appreciate that.
I'm sure.
On that last episode that we did, we talking about back in the clutch at the beginning of the pandemic. Okay. We were fortunate enough. We talked about your time overseas, the work that you did, and how much you had grown from there to the person you were back in 2019. We think about this time later, 2021, and you're on an entire different journey. I mean, to be able to just look back and see that, how does that make you feel? And what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, 2021 is 10 years after I graduated from college and after I went to China, which was kind of, I think, definitely a big moment in life because it was something adventurous that turned out very challenging, yet I learned a lot. And I think that was probably like solidified in me that I can move somewhere, that I can do something challenging. I think it really changed me. And then it also grounded me in just coming back to graduate school and having more of a worldview than I would have if I hadn't went. I don't know. I think it just really kind of, it reminds me of the knots I had in my stomach, like before I went to China. I always think about, well, why did you go? And I went because I didn't get into graduate school. Like the graduate schools I wanted to get in, I didn't get in. And I got in later, but at that time I had to make a decision. Like, what are you going to do? You can't be like the person who doesn't have plans, because at Spelman, everybody had plans and they had amazing plans. So I didn't want to be the girl that didn't have plans. So I think it honestly came out of desperation, but I think about like the knots I had in my stomach going to China and the same knots I had in my stomach moving here to Minnesota.
Man,
I think
that's
it
all
was just, it's all the same knots. It's all like fear, anxiety. What is it going to be like? Is it, because when you tell people you're doing stuff, they typically say the worst thing. You would think people would be encouraging, but a lot of times people say negative things and you hear that over and over and over again and you start to second guess yourself. But I think honestly, just my faith, I was like, no, I know I'm supposed to go, even though I don't necessarily I would have never necessarily thought that this was going to be the place where I would start but I just knew I had that deep, like knowing that God was calling me to move forward and not to stay in the same place. Yeah.
And one thing about it, like your faith, you always had that faith. Like I think every time it's that church. So I know that also just kept you strong and grounded. So, man, because what part of Minnesota are you in?
I am in Mankato, Minnesota. So there's great. I mean, a large university here, but not a lot else. That is, it's a very big part of the community. A smaller community, definitely nothing like Houston, Texas. It's outside of Minneapolis, but honestly, the people have been so amazingly nice. I'm very impressed by the school, by the mission of the school, their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just so many projects and things are going on. They're very caring about the students, and it just doesn't seem like it's about making money. You know, it seems like they really care about their students, and I love to be a part of something like that.
Man, now how far are you from where the Vikings play at?
The Vikings is what type of sports team?
Ooh, Minnesota Vikings football.
Oh yeah.
How far are you from Minneapolis?
Obviously, I'm not exactly well versed in sports.
In Minnesota, though.
But I did know that. I did know football, Vikings. There's basketball and baseball. I don't know.
Look, don't worry about the sport. Tell me. I need to just see.
There's hockey. There's lots of sports.
But I know somebody in Minnesota, because at first I was like, man, I want to go to a game. I'm getting up there. But I'll be looking at that snow. Are you ready?
Whatever. For that? You have to come, and we're gonna go to some sort of sports game.
It's only gonna be the fight. I'm sorry. It gotta be football.
Okay, football. Okay.
Yes. Okay. That's me right there. But but like I say, this is not Texas.
It's
so what
not.
You gonna do when that snow come and how you got some snow?
But this is the thing in Texas. Like I hibernated in the summer because I hate being hot. Like I'm a very hot natured person. Like my family, my friends, they call me a polar bear. I keep it really cold, so I know it's going to be really cold. I know this is going to be definitely a shift for a Southern belle like myself, but I'm excited about the fashion opportunities that I could have up here. So,
as long as you don't pull out the boots with the fur.
Oh, I got plenty of them. I thrifted a fur coat in February before I even knew I was moving here. That was a sign. I have been wanting one forever, but I've always lived in like Georgia, Texas, had no need.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, this is a sign. I'm supposed to go.
And you there.
See?
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Hey. So what we'll do is like I say, I want to really be intentional about just really catching up with you because so much has changed since our last episode, and for the people who know way back in the day, because I got a few people that have been back in the clutch with me, so they get to see that update. But what I want to do is kind of get a word from my sponsor, Mr. Frickles. And then when we get back, I really want to talk about your specialty, right? Because like I say, it's all about intriguing that parent or getting them to ask those questions, but where do they get that spark from? So when we get back, we're going to do that.
All right.
Big shout out to, hey, look, do you know what I just played?
I don't. I couldn't read the words.
Look, this guy is one of my friends. He started with, how you say $1 in a dream?
Oh, yeah, J. Cole.
Like literally, the brother started with $1 in a dream on some flavored pickles.
Ooh.
Then he hustled. He got to the HEB Taste of Texas. And then he started turning this into, he in over like 100 stores in Houston, a few grocery stores in Louisiana. God. Look, man, all pickles.
Hey, in Louisiana, they love flavored pickles. I tasted my first Kool-Aid pickle in Louisiana.
Well, that is what the brother is making a living, hustling out here in these streets, man. So now, so before we jump into like the questions, so how long have you been doing speech and language, and what all are some of the avenues you've done it through?
Yeah, actually not that long.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in December 2014. So I
Mm-hmm.
started January 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always worked in the schools. I've tried like some different things on the side, like
Yeah.
home health with children, also home health with adults for a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a private practice for a couple months in Atlanta before moving to Texas. But I mean, primarily my experience has been working in schools. I love
Yeah.
kids, I love schools for the last 6 years.
Yeah. And so then the thing about that is being able to work in the elementary school and catch kids at the beginning, right? That early
Yeah.
intervention is what's key. So just thinking about giving out information for the parents, sound bites, clips of information, and your experience in that school. When were the times when you start telling parents, okay, we need to start looking for these signs at this age, and then some of the things you would recommend for them to do?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking for signs happens even before elementary school. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that a lot of parents don't know. I always say, because I even have, through like teachers, maybe they have a family member or something and they'll ask me. And I'm like, if something might be wrong. And I'm like, parents intuition is real. Like you might not know exactly, you don't have like the technical lingo, but you typically know when something just isn't quite right. So I always say, as early, I'm talking 1 year old, 2 year old, as early as you notice something, to seek an evaluation from a speech pathologist, to consult with your pediatrician about their other developmental milestones in addition to speech, because sometimes we catch speech first because communication is so monumental, waiting for that baby's first words and them looking at you and all those early things. I mean, it's very noticeable when they're not doing that. And so a lot of times speech is really the parent's primary concern. And a lot of times it can be some other things going on. So, I mean, super early, even before elementary. And a lot of times when I'm getting these kids in elementary, even kindergarten, first grade, they might have been struggling for a little while and not had that support. So we want to support them as best we can as soon as possible. I mean, the goal is for speech therapy to not be forever. We want them to, in a school, be able to access the curriculum, be able to make friends, just have a great quality of life and improve and not be pulled out of class for
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah, man. Look, that inclusion is so real these days, but you got to be tight when you pulling them out of class. But
Oh, yeah.
but the thing is, like you say, early intervention is what is key, and that's real because I'm thinking you taking your first words. What is that? 2, 3?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, cooling is early months, like three
You
months,
right.
5 months, just like the laughing and that shared attention and
Yeah.
pointing to something and they actually look and not just stay looking at you. Babbling. So those sounds when parents are like, oh my God, they said mama, or they
Yeah.
probably didn't, but maybe they did. Okay. And, they're making those early sounds, like all of those exciting things, those are happening 1 year old.
One
Before
years
that,
old. You right.
yeah, I mean, 2 year olds have lots and lots of words. 4 year olds actually know how to manipulate people.
Yeah, you right.
They can, they have some social skills that are out of this world. And really, before four, I just love 4 year olds, the way
Yeah.
they think. But yeah, there's so many things happening in those first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before you hit kindergarten.
Yeah, man. Yeah, in retrospect, you right, man. That baby could be struggling for a long
Long
time before they
time.
get that help in kindergarten or pre-K.
And think about if you were doing, what if you were like putting on your shirt wrong every day until you were 5? Okay, maybe you don't think that's a big deal, but to unlearn that behavior is like not just going to happen immediately. So the
Yeah.
longer someone goes with saying a sound incorrectly or not knowing how to say a sound or, doing certain behaviors, then of course it's going to take time to unlearn that behavior and to replace it with something else. So it's not, it's not always as quick as
Yeah.
parents would like.
Yeah, because the key is not just unlearning the behavior, but then replacing it.
Replacing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And so as we know now, or I know now, a lot of it happens at the house. In talking to those parents who are at the house with those babies who can't even start like a jump start at 3, but they recognize something. What are some ways that you help parents do things at the house?
I always say, just don't do anything unnatural to your household and your family. Like, it is unnatural to pull out flashcards and drill people. Like, no one does that in the house. So why are you doing that? Even if it's unnatural, like if you and your family, y'all don't read, like everyone doesn't read. It's a very American middle to upper class thing to value reading. Of course, reading is important, but every family, maybe they don't do that. Maybe they value songs and like narratives, like storytelling. Who knows? So I say, whatever your family does, you want to embed communication in your family's routine. And that way you're going to have everyone participate versus taking a kid to the side and they still don't have a communication partner and you're like drilling them. So I always just say, start with thinking about throughout your day, all the opportunities where you have to communicate. Like, do you drop your child off and then you're in the car for 20 minutes on the way to school? Yeah. That's time right there. What about before mealtime? Like, is there a time when mom or dad comes home and starts the meal and the kid is like playing? Maybe invite them in and be a part of that and create an opportunity for them to cook and follow a recipe using pictures, giving them support. So there's so many fun things that you can do to just embed communication in the things you're already doing. And reading and books and all of that, I love it. But if you don't have books in your house, and, I don't like when people like demonize families, like, you don't read with your child. Do what is natural for your family. If your family speaks any other language other than English, speak that with your child, even if you feel like they're struggling with language, because that's a part of their identity and you don't want to exclude them from their community. So you want them to still give them that high quality language experience.
Now, this is what gets me. You think about those OR meetings, your experience as a speech therapist, and their parents say 30 minutes or 40 minutes 7 times per 9 weeks is not enough.
Why do you know the exact time? Look, you are taking me all the way back, okay? I haven't heard anybody say that in so long. It makes me sad.
Look, man.
Oh my God.
I know the weeks, man. Don't play no games, man. So now, with those, like, can you talk a little bit about for that parent listening who does think that those speeches are the same? Can you talk a little bit about your experience in helping parents understand that home speech is different than school?
Yeah, and I mean, yes, when like if you have someone coming into the home like for home health, yeah, those stipulations are different, and that's I think that's the most authentic speech therapy you can have. Someone coming into your home and really developing techniques and different strategies based on like what you all do in your home. That's like number one. So that's awesome. And I encourage all families, if they have access to those services, or try to get those services in addition to speech at school. But, at school, we have rules we have to follow. And there's a lot of kids, a lot of speech therapists work very hard and have incredibly high caseloads. And they are trying to meet those demands as best as they can. Every speech therapist I know works so hard to give their kids quality speech therapy with the limited resources, with the limited amount of time they have. But the thing about time in a school is we are writing in this IEP that we feel like they need to be pulled out of their classroom. And yes, we can provide services in the classroom, but we don't want to pull them out for any time longer than we need to. So sometimes that means we're not going to see them every single week of the 9 weeks. We want to see, will those skills carry over if I skip a week? If I have to see you every single week and you don't remember from week to week, that's like a sign that we want them. The ultimate goal is generalization of the skills in their life. So I think the time is kind of hard. And a lot of parents I know, when I was working at Leeseman in the schools, they wanted more speech. And I would always try to say it depends on the model that you're using. If we're in this classroom and it's rich language environment, then they're already getting practically what I'm doing. And what I'm doing, I'm teaching the teachers and the parents to carry over in the classroom. If I'm pulling them out, it's because I have to take them out of class.
Yeah.
You know, it was so funny that a lot of parents did not know I was really pulling their child out of class until the pandemic.
Yeah.
When we were doing virtual therapy, and I would say, okay, we have speech, you know, at 10, and they would be like, oh, they have math. I'm like, yeah. And when we were at school, I actually pulled them out. I don't like to pull them out of math, but I pulled them out of something.
Yeah.
And so the parents were like, oh, wow, so they're going to miss that time. I'm like, yeah, that's why I don't want to pull them out all those times. I want to pull them out as least as possible for them to meet their goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you know that, what is that blurb? What do you say? We believe.
Yes, minutes for our meeting.
Don't play no games, man.
Absolutely.
We believe that the positive effects
outweigh the negative. I don't even know.
Yeah. But look, man, that's just crazy. But now during the pandemic, how was that for you? What was that experience like? I know but you also doing online classes for college, correct too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a lot of screen time. I had to go to the eye doctor. I developed some neck problems.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot to keep up with. But honestly, I'm so grateful for that time. I fell in love with teletherapy. The use of technology. I actually was a very old school therapist, although I'm not that old. Clearly, I'm quite young.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of things like old school before the pandemic, and it forced me to really upgrade my game and my materials, and to really connect with other therapists that were doing more cutting edge things with me, and learn, and just like take the time to learn. And so it turned out, I mean, there were benefits.
So what you teaching now at the college?
So I am teaching 2 graduate courses this semester. I just love the graduate students. They are such amazing people. 41, 42 amazing individuals. And they in the first year class. So I'm teaching multicultural issues. So we're talking about all of the things, social justice, just really dismantling racism in our profession. Really deep conversations we're having even early on. I love it. Yeah. And then I am given the opportunity to create a course, which is amazing that these people trust me to create a course. So it's a seminar course in diversity, equity, and inclusion special topics. And so I'm really using my research for my dissertation study, which is on therapeutic relationships, and talking about how to make those strong relationships between the therapist and the client, and how to be vulnerable and empathetic with your clients, especially those who are Black, Indigenous, people of color.
Sound like you already got our Wellness Wednesday episode mapped out.
Hey, I'm all about the wellness.
Man, that is awesome. And so, but that's that's really deep inside of your work though, the diversity and inclusion.
It is all, I mean, it's my mission. I think even as a speech therapist, advocating for my clients, my kids, my people, people of color, and people who speak languages other than English, and people who use African American English, and all those people, that's why I got in this profession. I didn't know that, but that's why I came in here. Yeah. And so to just be a voice, and that's what I get the opportunity to teach people. So,
and now multicultural issues.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you in Minnesota.
Absolutely.
So how are these conversations when you just go back to, and I don't know if y'all covered this, but you go back to the Floyd era of last year, and just coming back into.
It's not an era, and it's just not last year.
Yeah.
And I think honestly that I think the position has been something that they have had, I think, in the plans for a while in the Department of Speech. I don't know if you even know this background, but the profession of speech pathology is very white. And it is 92% white and 8% not. And so when you think about the roots and what our profession is even founded on, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to recruiting people of color and retaining people of color in our profession. So that's kind of where it starts, I think. And then as far as the work, you know, being here in Minnesota, the first day, I think, of our new faculty orientation. Now, I know I'm going to Minnesota. I'm not completely oblivious. I know every single person, the first thing they say, ain't no Black people.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all, there's Black people everywhere. I have Black friends in China. Okay, there's Black people everywhere. But it might not be a plethora, like in Georgia, like in Atlanta, like in Houston. Okay, so I knew that coming in, right? But one thing in the new faculty orientation that really, I don't know why, maybe it surprised me or it stuck with me. She said, you might encounter, not might, you will encounter students where it could possibly be, you could possibly be their first Black or person of color, their first Black educator. And I'm like, but this is college. So you've never had a Black teacher ever? Like ever? Like kindergarten, high school, middle school, never? I can't believe that. And I didn't even ask my students, like, am I your first Black educator? I don't know, but that could very well be some of their story. And that just really shook me. I think a lot of times when people think about representation, it's like, so another Black girl can look at me and know that she can be a professor. But representation goes both ways. So a person who is not Black, like a white person, can learn from me and say, I can learn from people who do not look like me. People that don't look like me can offer scholarship. I can open my mind to being taught by people who don't look like me and understanding the stories of people that don't look like me and being open to that. So I think it's just an opportunity for me.
And when you think about that, I remember teaching in high school, and I was most kids' first Black male teacher.
Oh, absolutely. I think, what is it, 3% of educators?
Yeah.
Are Black men? My brother is a teacher. He tells me that all the time.
Yeah. It's like, man.
He's an AP, actually, like you, actually.
God bless him, man. I know it's real on him right now.
We praying for him, because it's a lot. I don't know how y'all do it.
Prayer. I'm going to just leave it at that. Prayer.
I'm praying for y'all.
So, man, as you speak about those young ladies, who you're saying you do this so that they can believe they can do that too. And saying I want to play something back for my young ladies circle at school, on campus.
Okay.
What do you tell those young ladies who want to get into this? They want to go to China. They want to do it at the university.
You know, you will never be what you don't believe you can be. You will never have what you don't believe you can have. And I think it just starts with a belief. You know, I was 7 years old and I wanted to be a professor. No one says that at 7 years old. You know, when I was 5, I knew what college I was going to. It was never a question. And I don't know what was in me, or I don't know what my parents said to me. Maybe it was how they raised me. But I didn't believe that there were things that I couldn't do. Honestly, only until I became an adult did I think, maybe I can't, or maybe, you know, but I think as a young child, like I didn't have these beliefs that I couldn't do something. So, I also think there are a lot of like unwritten rules to going higher in academia. whether it's applying to graduate school and being a first generation and you didn't know that you had to make relationships with your professors, because who is going to write you a letter of recommendation if they don't know you? How, when you submit a grad school application, you know, I had a 3.7 GPA at Spelman, 3.6 it was almost 7. I cried about that. It wasn't 7, it was 3.6 something. And I got rejected from like 4 or 5 graduate schools. So it is not all about GPA. Like, you have to fight for your spot. You have to know people. You have to be involved. It's so many things. So I wouldn't have known that if I didn't know those unwritten rules. So just being connected with people who are where you want to be and really forming relationships with those people. So when they look back, they're pulling you up. You know, even this position, I mean, my mentor, Dr. Megan, you know, I don't call her doctor. We're like so cool. I call her Megan, and she's amazing. And I feel like when she has opportunities, she thinks about me. And it's not that she just gives me something. It's like, here, I got you this job. No, I had to interview. I had to cry a little bit. I had to sweat a little bit. I had to interview, but she thought of me because we have a relationship, and she knows like where my heart is and the work I want to do. So just making those meaningful connections with people that are where you want to be can help you.
Yeah, my friend Nick, he said the other night on the podcast, Nicholas Barely, he said, find somebody, like you say, that's doing it. Make their ceiling, make their floor your ceiling. Yeah, and he say, let them pull you up from there, right? And so then, look, I can dig it. You got to find somebody doing what you want to do. So that's why I'm so thankful to be able to connect with guys like that. But man, it worked. Your mentor has got it going because you in the game. You done shot out from us in H-Town.
Man, it's surreal. It's surreal because I think working in elementary school, it changes you. Like that environment, you don't get that out of you. Like it permeates through how you show up in the world. And I value that time that I had so much. I would not be a professor if it wasn't for every client, every teacher, every student, every family that I came in contact with, that every amazing speech therapist. There are some bomb speech therapists in Alief ISD. Do you hear me? I am shouting them out. Incredible women and men who are movers and shakers. And I learned so much from them. And I wouldn't be here in a new position, in a higher position, or whatever you want to call it, if it wasn't for all of the people that were on my path and that I was able to learn from.
Man, that's it, man. Well, man, I just want to say thank you for taking some time out to come back on for part 2, especially after the move, after the journey.
After the move, I know.
Man, it was time, man. It was right on time.
It was. This is perfect.
Yeah, so now we got to get this information out and get it shared with some people. And man, I'm gonna play that little clip too. That soundbite for my speech therapist tomorrow.
Please do. Please do. I miss them. I miss them so much.
All right. So give us the contact information. How do we find you? How do we catch you? What do we do here?
Yes, follow me on Instagram at TheCLD_SLP. Man,
that is it. Scrolling right there across the screen. Right there. Y'all check that. All right. Well, thank you for spending some time. We looking forward to that Wellness Wednesday episode. So I think just gonna be ready for that.
Mental health as well. So I'm ready.
I have to do it. All right, y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV.